is going to evaluate somebody that I'm responsible for evaluating. I need to do the right job evaluating the teachers. And our number one job is to help them improve. That's number one. When there's a problem in the school with any personnel, it is my responsibility as a principal to help that teacher improve. But if that teacher does not improve, there is a system that is in place that you can follow, that you can take, and that's the last resort. But we already have a system like that, and I would be tremendously against a standardized test, another test set down by the state, trying to tell us how to do our job in the system. And I think I speak for all principals that they take their job very seriously about evaluating, and that's an insult to them too. That is their job. And if they're not doing a good job in that, then we need to do a better job evaluating the principals. And if we're not doing a good job of that, we need to do a better job of evaluating the superintendent. And if the teachers are going to take a standardized test, then I need to take a standardized test. But no, I'm totally against it, if that's clear.
Mr. Cole, the voters have said no to a half-cent sales tax.
They did, didn't they?
They did. And if you could convince them to go ahead and put in a half-cent sales tax, what would you tell them how you would use that money? How would you make the best use of the current situation?
Well, thanks for asking that question. Because number one, that's not the first thing I'm going to do. I'm not going to go out there and ask for another half cent. We've already voted on that. The first thing that I'm going to try to do is to lead a system as we try, not a bunch of schools, but a whole system, as we try to win the trust of the public back. Now, I don't know all the reasons people voted against the tax. I know that 20% of it didn't go to the county, but I can tell you that almost 1,000 people came up to me and said, Billy said, you know, I'm not against education. I'm just not assured that the money's going to be spent on the kids. There was a concern there. And now, whether that was justified or not is not the issue. The issue is that they thought it was justified. So the first thing that we need to do is win the trust of the community. I've already talked about community meetings that we're going to have. We're going to open up the books of the school system, let everybody see everything that's going on, from my salary all the way down to every expense. We're going to try to win the trust back. And then, when the trust is won back, maybe the commissioners will revisit that. Because the commissioners need to know that the people that are voting have confidence. I think it might have passed if we had said, this is where it goes. All the money goes for this. It might have. At least some of those people that came to me might have voted differently. So the first thing that I want to do is to try to establish open lines of communication with the business and the community leaders, to let them know that they've got trust in the way we're spending our money, and then we'll see what happens. There may be a result from that, but that's not going to happen. It's going to take a while for them to see that we're very serious about doing that. But that would be the first thing that I would do before we even talked about another tax, because we voted on that. Okay.
Now, I don't think we can throw it out the back door with the bathwater. I think it's just like anything else. We talked about consolidation earlier. If you start taking things off the table to look at, then you're going to limit your possibilities. So I think we still need to consider that as a possibility. I think there's probably more trust there than we're giving credit for. After seeing the turnout for our Student Investment Foundation that we had the other night, some 330 people came out and said, I'm really ready to give back to education and put that money back into the classroom where it needs to be. We will use that money to do that. It never was stated that we would use that money to hire more people or increase someone's salary. That never was stated. In fact, when we went to the commissioners, it was very well detailed as to how it would be spent. And they knew where the money would go. They had input on that, and we had an engaged conversation between the commissioners and myself. Although I wasn't talking to the people at the time, you understand that came up after the fact, is that we would let the people decide. I went into their office to talk to them about the possibility, and they were open to the discussion to a point. And once we got to that point, then the discussion changed and it shifted. And so they said that they would let the people decide. Given more time, we could and we will inform the people, and they will know how the money will be spent.
This question will start with Mr. Al. Both of you addressed cost-cutting issues earlier. And looking at either administrative or just any non-classroom related services, what are some of the areas that you see moving forward, or areas that can be looked at possibility either for cutting or combining?
I'm not sure I understand your question. You're talking about cutting and combining in that area moving forward, or?
And looking as you look forward, looking at the next budget cycle.
Okay.
What are some of the administrative services or just non-classroom functions where you see there's still potential? Because you mentioned some of the things that have been done.
Okay. Okay.
What are things moving
All right.
forward that haven't been done?
You know, there's still going to be some evaluating that's going to have to be done, some assessing that's going to have to be done in each department. Our maintenance department has saved us probably $1 million just because of reconfiguration. Obviously, the moratorium on building projects is going to save us money. So you again look at how many people do you need to do that job, or that's kind of the idea you work off of. As I mentioned before, almost 1/3 of the central office has been eliminated. We're 1/3 less staffed than we were 4 years ago. Will we look there again? Yes, because those are non-teaching areas that we can look at. We can also use funding from C&P and transportation, and we've done that recently. We flexed, we unflexed, and then we reflexed. And so to get past this last 2% of proration, that had to be done in that fashion. But had we not unflexed it in the first place, we wouldn't have had it to reflex. So those are things that you continually look at. And when you start talking about a budget, and we'll begin that process in November, you start receiving stuff from the state, and there are so many unknown variables. And the unknown variables are, well, for one thing, is the State Department going to raise the divisor? That's always a huge question. Once they raise that divisor, we have to comply with it. That immediately cuts your teaching staff. You don't have any control over whether you're going to cut out of this department or that department. Another caveat that is factored in here is loss of enrollment. For whatever reason, the economy, competition, or whatever the reason may be, we've lost 300 students in the last 4 years. So you have to measure that in when you start talking about cost-saving measures and reconfiguring.
We talked just a second ago about communication with the community, and I think winning confidence back, and I agree, there's just a segment of it, but that might help some of that enrollment, those kids that might be leaving the system, because maybe they would consider staying. Maybe we could consider getting other kids to move in, but that's not really the point I wanted to make. I gave you one example of how I was going to evaluate the principals myself, even though that is a small thing, that is a consolidation, that I would personally take on. But I want to get back to thinking outside the box. You know, we want to keep advancing technology, and this is a business organization, correct? I mean, you represent the businesses. You need kids that are technology savvy, right? So I would think that the businesses would want to join us in helping to support us in our technology endeavors, so we could shift some of the expense in technology and get business involved as a partner, so that maybe we could help there a little. We're certainly not going to compromise that risk, because that's critical. You talk about losing money. Well, when your dropout rate goes up, the state cuts your money. I mean, so what about at risk? It's of the advantage to the community that our at-risk kids stay in school and get their life going in the right direction. So I would think that there would be resources in the communities that could join with us in the area of at-risk, so we could shift some of our at-risk expenses maybe to people in the community that would like to get involved and help us. So thinking outside the box, shifting expense that we're incurring to resources in the community that would actively be interested in those, I think is something we need to look. We don't just need to consolidate within the schools. We need to consolidate with the community and business world, because, as Mr. Allen said, they're willing and able to support. I was at the meeting and we had great support from those organizations.
President Obama recently proposed extending the school year, and wonder what you think about that, what problems you would see in that, and what possible benefits could come from that.
Let me be specific. No, I would not be in favor of extending the school year. I'll tell you a great idea. Let's take the days that we got now and let's use them to the very best of our ability. I think that, sometimes we try to keep making things complicated in education. We have yet to rival our grandparents' generation. And I visited school down in Garden City where they were educated, and I just think that more school days, longer school days is not the answer. I think the answer is quality in every minute that we spend. If we will spend every moment of the school day in teaching our children, I think we'll prepare them. I think we'll prepare them for life. So no, I'm not for extending the school day. I thought we were talking about expenses here. But we're just trying. We're trying to get toilet paper and basic maintenance items. We're trying to keep our programs going. Well, how in the world are we going to extend our school year? Under different circumstances, it might be different. But I would be totally against that, and that's counterproductive to what we've been talking about today. I think that 185 days. I think we can educate our children in 185 days, and I think we can do it beautifully. I think we are doing it beautifully. And so I would definitely be against that. And I'm really against anything that pretty much that the federal government is trying to hand down to us locally. I think we should run our school systems the way we think is best, and not somebody that's sitting up in office in Washington, D.C. And I might add Montgomery